I'm going to talk to you about the CASA radar program. Has anybody heard about this CASA radar program that we've got coming to the region? Okay, so a few. First, I'll give you a little background on the project and where we're headed, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the benefits of the program and some of the public-private sector models that we have in place. CASA stands for the Collaborative Adaptive Sensing of the Atmosphere. It is a National Science Foundation engineering research project. It was a 10-year, $40 million grant that ended in late 2013. It is a consortium of universities, with the University of Massachusetts being the lead. They had a test bed in Oklahoma. It was in rural Oklahoma, just southwest of Oklahoma City. It was nested in between two NexRad radars that the National Weather Service uses, and they had 4 radars located there. In late 2011, the National Science Foundation came back to CASA and said, "You've done a great job proving the concept in rural Oklahoma. Now you need to take it to an urban environment and prove the concept works in an urban environment." So they looked at several urban environments across the United States and ended up coming here to DFW. They had 4 radars that they were bringing down from Oklahoma at that point, and when they announced they were coming here, they got 4 more additional radars from private sector companies. So we have 8 radars in the region now. These CASA radars are not just weather radars. They can be used for multiple purposes. They can be used for homeland security purposes, stormwater issues. Every time we talk to somebody new, we find another way that these radars can be used. They provide high-resolution, real-time view of what's happening here on the ground. So as you can see in the top picture, this shows that with the current NexRad radar available at 10,000 feet, we have a pretty good coverage over our region. But because the radar beam shoots out straight and the Earth curves, it's not flat, we get a gap in the lower atmosphere where the weather actually occurs. So the NexRad radar is at Sphinx Airport in southern Tarrant County. The farther you get away from that, once you get up around Collin County and especially up around Hunt County, they pretty much have no radar capabilities at the ground level. This causes a problem. The bottom picture, you can see the coverage at 1 kilometer above the Earth with the NexRad data. So CASA's solution is to blanket inexpensive, smaller radars closer together across the region. We're looking at probably 16 to 20 radars across our region to cover the entire 16 counties. You can see from this slide the difference between the CASA radars, which are X-band radars, and the NexRad radars that we currently have in place. It's Texas, so we think in football fields. With the CASA radars, we're looking at 1 to 2.5 football fields, and with the NexRad data, we're looking at 10 to 40 football fields. The CASAs update every 1 minute, where with NexRad, you're updating every 5 to 6 minutes. A lot happens in 5 to 6 minutes. You can have a tornado spin up, you can have high-level flooding. A lot happens in that 5 minutes that's not caught. CASA also has what they call smart scans. This is current NexRad technology. You have 1 radar beam that just spins in a circle. It updates every 5 to 6 minutes. CASA technology, they call it smart scan because it's actually scanning in on the highest intensity of the storm. It's always going around to check for anything else that might be coming into that domain, but it focuses in and the network works together to focus in on those storms. So this is pre-1988 technology. You can kind of tell what the picture is, but you really can't get a good idea. This is current technology. This is our NexRad technology. You can kind of get an idea of where our eyes are, where our nose is. This is 21st century technology. This is the updated CASA radars. You can see much finer detail and know exactly where all the features are. This is a storm that was in the Oklahoma testbed in 2011. On the left, you can see an image of a storm coming in. You can kind of tell that there's a hook echo there. There's a potential tornado, but the radar beam is about 3,000 feet in the air. So you can tell that the image is very blocky, and you don't know exactly where that tornado is. On the right, it's the CASA image. You can tell there is a tornado on the ground right there in that box. The radar is about 800 feet in the air, so you have a much higher resolution, much more clear picture of what's happening at the street level. And back to Mona Lisa, you can tell the difference between NexRad and the CASA radar. This is a storm that we actually caught with the radar at UTA. On the left, you can see the NexRad data. On the right, you can see the CASA data. This is a storm up in Haslett in October of last year. There was a tornado that did touch down. It did some damage there in Haslett. It was never a warned storm. The National Weather Service never saw this on NexRad data. They do have access to the CASA data. They went back in a few days later and looked at the CASA data and went, wow, yes, we did have some weather there. With the triangulation of the radar network, you can also get true wind data. This is a storm that was down in Ellis County a few weeks ago, and I believe this was down around Midlothian where they did have some rotation down there. So this is much easier to interpret, and you can get very accurate true wind data. We all know North Texas has lots of severe weather threats. We kind of get the gamut of everything. These are some of the economic losses that happened just in a storm in 2012. Lots of economic benefits to having better weather technology here in our region. This is a storm from May 2011 in Oklahoma where an emergency manager was able to make some life-saving decisions based on the data that he was seeing. The graphic on the left, you can see the white line. I don't know if y'all can see it from there. The white line shows the projected path of the tornado that was coming into the town. It was headed towards the Oak subdivision, so he had all of his resources staged there, all of his first responders and all the other resources. He was watching the CASA radar and was able to see with that 1 minute update that the storm was starting to turn north. He did not see this on the NexRad radar. He was able to move his first responders and resources out of the way, and there on the black dot is actually where his emergency operations center and his community shelter was located. So he was able to get all those people in, out of the path of the storm, and get the first responders out away so that they could get in and respond to that situation. This is a very tech-savvy emergency manager, so he was able to look at these radar products and understand them in depth. We're working with emergency managers to get things like text-based products out for when the winds reach a certain level or when the water depth reaches a certain height, they can get text-based warnings to know and go and look at that situation. Right now, the National Weather Service warns on detection. They either look at the radar or they have spotters out there and they can warn based on that information. The goal is to warn on a forecast. We've seen by incorporating the CASA data into models, we've had very promising results on the forecasting results. The graphic on the left shows with the NexRad data, the predicted tornado and where the actual tornado occurred. The graphic on the right shows 80 minutes out where they predicted a tornado and that the actual tornado occurred in that exact spot. I don't want to promise this for tomorrow. We're probably about 4 or 5 years away from getting these kind of forecasts, but it's very promising to see that this kind of forecast can be accomplished. I focused a lot on tornadoes because that's pretty flashy and everybody enjoys seeing that, but CASA has a lot of other products available as well. They have a system for very accurate rain measurement. It's like having a rain gauge every 800 feet. They're working with UTA now to integrate the CASA into the hydrologic models to predict runoff. The charts that they had in the past, they said were all over the place comparing actual rainfall to what's in your rain gauges. When they put the CASA data in there, it is spot on from the data that we've been given. It's been released to us up to this point. It is very, very spot on where the CASA data predicts and what the rain gauges actually say. This is some of the data out of the UTA study as well. You can see this example is from Fort Worth. The top picture is the QPE product and the surface runoff, compared to the NexRad images that you currently get. It's a much finer, higher resolution picture. Same here. The CASA data just gives much, much higher resolution and is much less pixelated at a lower level than you're used to. You can also measure the transition from rain to ice to snow. This isn't exactly what's on the ground, but this is what's falling, so you have an accurate depiction of what you're looking at. CASA is working to get this data into your current platform so that you don't have yet another system that you have to go look at all the time. Some emergency managers, some jurisdictions enjoy having that radar website to go look at. Others just want it integrated into current platforms. Also, being able to tailor those alerts and get alerts for when things are actually happening. Like I said, we have 8 radars in the region. The first 7 have locations. We have UTA that is installed, Midlothian is installed, UNT and Addison are both installed, and we expect Fort Worth and Cleburne to be installed probably in the next couple of months, and then Dallas will come on board shortly after that. And the Executive Council is still trying to decide where that last radar, where that 8th radar site will be. Ultimately, it's going to take about 16 to 22 radars to cover the entire 16 counties. Again, these are much less inexpensive radars than the current NextRad radar, so this is possible. We have about $600,000 a year in operating expenses to get this network up and running. So we have a cost share that the jurisdictions have paid into to make this project happen. It's not just on the jurisdiction's back to make this happen. We're also looking at private sector, federal funding, several different avenues in order to make this cost share a reality. The public-private partnership, we're looking at third-party resellers, we're looking at app developers, so that we can get this in the hands of the public, in the hands of the storm spotters, as well as the hands of the local jurisdictions that need it to make life safety decisions. We can wait and have the federal government provide this for us, but it's probably going to be another 20, 30 years before this actually gets out from the federal government. So moving forward now and making this a reality, it's taking that cost share from the entire region to come together. Again, this is just a list of some of the things that we're looking at. The National Weather Service is heavily involved in the project. They've put in quite a bit of money as we go along. We're looking at grants, endowments, as well as the public entities paying in for the system. We have an executive board. This is just a few of the jurisdictions that are involved in the Executive Council. This reports to the COG Executive Board. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?